I wanted to just show you some results I got here very quickly. See how foggy we are there in that section of the gauge. Let's see, what would that have been? That's not the speedometer. I think there have been some warning lights and stuff down there. Anyway, that was so scratched up and foggy, and this bottom right corner was the same way as that. In fact, let's go across here to that one. That's what the bottom right corner looked like. As you can see, there's still a little bit of fog in there, but I took care of that with my AIM toothpaste from Walmart. I put a little dab of it on there, wet that blue shop towel, and just rubbed on it a while, and it took most of that haze away from the glass or from the plastic. So I'm going to carry that through the rest of this. I might even try to go work on that a little more. I'm not getting a good background for the shot, so you can see that there's still a little tiny bit of haze in there, but you can actually see through it now. I could see the gauge. See, if I'm looking at my toothpaste thing there, I can read that there, but if I was in this place, I couldn't even read my gauge. And so that's what I'm going to do here. That's the cheap toothpaste from Walmart, like 89 cents a tube or something, so just know you could use that. I imagine most any kind of regular toothpaste will work. Some other things I might have tried, I have some old Turtle Wax chrome wheel polish that I've used before, but I couldn't find it. If you have something like that, you might try that. I don't know if it's too abrasive for this, but you need something with a really mild abrasive to be able to make it work. There we go. Got it in the right light. You can see there's still some fog there, but it's not bad, and it's definitely something I can read through. You might try this with a Dremel tool with a little cotton buffing wheel on it, but you'd have to be careful that you keep it wet and don't let it dry out, because it will burn the plastic if you're doing that. That's why I chose to just do it by hand. Again, if this was a full-blown restoration, I'd probably try to find a replacement brand new piece of plastic here, because I'm sure they make them. But just know that you can make something usable again just by going through and doing that method. So there you go. We'll move on to the next part of cleaning up the other pieces, and I'll show you what we got when we come back. Another little quick note here on these instrument clusters. I decided that I want to clean this whole white plastic piece up really good, because the light reflects off of the inside of it in order to light up your gauges at night, and so I want it clean. So I wanted to take it apart, and I really don't want to get this piece or this printed circuit board wet in that process. So I pulled all 4 gauges out, took 2 screws out here and one down in the inside right there. To get the speedometer out, it's sitting right there, so you can kind of see what that mechanism looks like. For those of you that have never seen one before, I guess we can tell really quick here if it's working by spinning that thing, and it pops the needle up there, so we know that that's good. And the other thing that I'm looking at here, let me back up. To get this printed circuit board off of here, it just sits over those tabs, and the last thing holding it in is our little light bulb. So they're like, they turn 1/8 of a turn and pop out there. So we take all of those out, and that'll also give me a chance to check the bulbs before I put them back in and replacing them if I need to. Come on here. There we go. And also, this is where it's really handy to have yourself a parts cluster too if you're doing this, because you might break one, you might need a bulb, and if you've already bought the cluster, there might be some good bulbs on it. It's like we're all coming off good except for that one pin there. I don't think it would hurt this to get wet, but I really don't want to have to find that out. So, there we go. So there comes our printed circuit board, and we'll get it over here to the side. Now I've got that all stripped down and ready to clean up, and I'll just take that into the sink, clean it up real good. The other thing I was going to tell you is all of my gauge needles are faded on this set of gauges, and over here on this one I noticed they're not. And so I'm probably going to swap out this whole set of gauges into that other instrument cluster over there. And that way I don't have to paint them, because I don't really have the color paint that I should for it. But I'll swap those out and keep my other ones in this cluster in case I decide I need them for something later on down the line, and we'll be all set to go there. So I'll clean those parts up. I'm going to use this part off of this cluster. I believe I'm going to use this part, so I'm going to go clean all those up and examine where I'm at that point, and then we'll be ready to start putting the thing back together. Alright, here we go. We've got most of my pieces cleaned up for this, and as I got to comparing my two bezels or face plates or whatever you want to call them here, the part you're actually going to see, neither one of them was in very good shape, and this one was the better one of the two. And I decided I'm going to scuff it up and paint it. So that's where I'm at right now. I looked around through my collection of paint, and I started to think, well, I'll paint it black, but then the only black I had was a gloss black, and I'd rather have a satin black on something like this. So then I got digging around, I found 2 or 3 cans of this, actually, of silver. And so I'm going to spray it silver. That's pretty close to what it was. It'll cover up the black that's there, and I get enough coats on it, it should dry, and we'll have it to where it looks nice and uniform instead of having all of the flaky paint, which you can see in there. And we want to take care of that problem. So that's what we're going to be working on here. Alrighty, here we go. So here's our freshly painted bezel or faceplate to go on those instruments, painted in silver. Yeah, I would have liked to have that back in black, but I'm not going to worry about it, especially on this truck. I think it's going to look really nice just like that. Remember I talked about cleaning up that white plastic case, get all the dirt off the inside of it, the outside of it, got all our printed circuit put on the back and tightened down the way that it's supposed to be, so we got that in good shape. I took my better one of my two background plates and cleaned it up. This one does have some rust, but it's all outside of the viewing area. The other one had some spots inside. This thing, which is kind of the brace across the top of the cover, we just cleaned it up from dirt and got it ready. And here is our lens, which was the object of the whole thing. And as you can see, you can still see some fogginess in there, but you know what, it's clear enough that I can see through it. When I'm looking there, the worst place is right where the odometer is. It's a little bit harder to read, but everything else in there is pretty clear and not hard to read at all. So there we go. We're going to start putting this baby back together. And so I think the first thing we've got to do, we'll flip the cover over like so. And I think our next thing is to get, sorry, trying to talk, think, and do at the same time. There we go. So we got our lens back in place. And I believe that the next piece that goes back in is this little faceplate item there. Actually, I just thought of another thing. I've got to put, there's some little vibration damper pads. You can see them right here. There's still a couple of them. The bottom ones are all stuck to that still. The upper ones, I need to get them put back in their grooves. They came out, and I've got them saved right here. Probably just keeps the thing from rattling, I'm guessing. So I'll put those in and put it back in the way I had it, and I'll show you as I start getting all the screws wrapped up in it and get her back in her final spot. So there we are. It's turning out really nice. We're back together. Got all 6 of our screws in this time, rated some from the parts piece. Oh yeah, I was going to tell you too, as I talked about, taking the gauges out of the other one because our needles were all faded. And as I started to do that, I found out that they were completely interchangeable, except that the studs on the back of them where they came through things were too short, because this new plastic design here used longer studs for some reason. So rather than fight that, I just went back in and took the original ones out of this unit, and instead I found some orange paint and painted those needles on there so that we're all up to date and nothing's faded, and they're going to look really good. So the last piece that we have to do here is to put this metal brace back on the top. And let's see, that must be upside down. Must have gone in this way. Yep, there we go. So we'll have to get those holes all lined up there, get her sitting down in all the right spots, like that. And we'll stick a few of our screws in here because we only had 3 of them that were left in this because we broke the tabs off. The mounting tabs on those were already gone. We'll put these 3 screws back in there, and then we'll be ready to go back in the truck. So, I don't know how exciting it is to watch somebody put screws in, right? And I'm not going to be doing fast motion here. I'm not that advanced on my photo editing abilities yet, although I've got one video sitting in my phone and I'm going to have to figure out how to edit that way because it's just too long and I don't want to break it up in 2. So here we go. That's got us all wrapped up there. And our unit's back in place. Now we'll walk it out to the truck and we'll see how it fits. Alright, so we got her sitting back in here. Back in there where we can see. I've got my speedometer cable hooked back up and my wires are plugged back in their socket over there, which you won't be able to see very well. But we got her in place. Now we just gotta get this baby fitted up in there. Ta-da! Just like that. Now the next piece is getting our screws back in it. So I'm gonna do that and then I'll be back to show you the finished product. And there we have it, folks. Our nice cleaned up dashboard with a clear lens in it now where we can actually see the gauges. Fresh paint job to hide all of the cracked and peeling paint that was on it, and all fit back in, and I'm very happy with this, so I think we're going to be in good shape. Anyway, that was one of those simple little projects. It required a screwdriver, a nuts driver, which this one, the screwdriver tips pull out and become a nut driver, and a pair of pliers to take those nuts off the back of the gauges. Outside of that, and a washcloth, some water, that's all required. It's really quite a simple job to do. So there we sit. I did take a washcloth and kind of cleaned up all the painted surfaces around it. They're still not in perfect condition, but they're all right. One of the things I love about this truck is the color. Ford, in my opinion, even though I love Fords, I'm a Ford guy, Ford made a lot of ugly colored paints back in the day, and most everything that I've ever gotten has been painted in ugly color, but I like this blue. It kind of sets everything off like that, and I think it's going to make us a nice looking truck as we get done here. But there you go. It's a final wrap up of the Crazy Dad's Bumpside Repair Your Instrument Panel episode.